Hello everyone, my name is Tyler Dodrill and I'm a fourth year Recreation and Parks Management major with a concentration in Community Recreation and Event Planning and a double minor in Media Studies and English. Today I'm going to be presenting Nothing Good is Born from Lies, the Denial of Feminism and its Implications, creating a curated archive of comic books that corrects the falsehoods present and accusations towards contemporary media adaptations. The peak of my curiosity for my research was that, as a fan of comic books and film adaptations of them, I noticed there seemed to be a general trend of negative reception of female-led comic book media, while their counterparts seemed to evade such negativity. I noticed this first in December 2020 with Wonder Woman 1984. So my research questions were, was there actually a significant difference in female-led comic book media, and why is that the case if it is? And what it is that I determined is that, largely, criticisms of female-led superhero media are often baseless due to invalid accusations of comic inaccuracy, racial, gender, and sexual orientation bias, and those two working in tandem to create a phenomenon known as review bombing. To give insight into what it is I was noticing, here are screenshots from the Rotten Tomatoes website of two female-led superhero adaptations, and part of the initial concluding of there being a difference can be made by simply looking at these review websites and their scores. On the right, we can see the differences between the critic and the audience scores, one of the many key highlights of the disparity. So, why is there one? Well, the first facet as to why criticisms of female-led superhero media is baseless are invalid accusations of comic inaccuracy. Upon research of review sites, there are countless mentions of those making the films being incapable due to a lack of knowledge of comics. However, in Wonder Woman 1984's instance, for example, one of the head writers and producers is one of the most prolific comic writers of all time, Jeff Johns. Not to mention, the film takes heavy inspiration from multiple runs of the Wonder Woman comic, with a visual showing of that in the image comparison on the right. Additionally, and more than likely the most important aspect, is the presence of many biases that people go into these projects with, most notably racial, gender, and sexual orientation bias. In fact, these films get targeted from the get-go and get accused of having certain agendas, despite nothing being known of the project. Jurnee Smollett on the right was in the 2020 film Birds of Prey, and was instantly targeted online for being a Black woman playing a character whose comic counterpart is traditionally drawn as white, despite that character's race having no importance. What I noticed in relation to the female-led superhero media is that their visibility is heightened due to the majority of the projects being male-led or ensemble films, and because of this, there is almost a limbo system at play, with financial return being harder to accomplish than their counterparts, critical reception being slightly harder than that, and audience reception being the hardest facet to obtain, with each added layer of diversity present in the cast, making it even more difficult for that film to quote-unquote pass the test. The two previous points add up together to lead to review bombing, a recent term that means the act of one or multiple people intentionally leaving a bad review for something, despite that being per se objectively untruthful of what their actual score should be. For example, if there are 6 parts of rating film subconsciously, and 5 of those are all there, but one simply did not enjoy the message the film had, then theoretically, the review being left should be somewhere in the 8-star range out of 10. Instead, however, what occurs is people are so upset at the agenda a film has, they instead leave a 1-star rating. And most of the time, these films do not even have these so-called agendas. See, for some moviegoers, it's not about is, it's about believe. And as Diana states in Wonder Woman 1984, nothing good is born from lies. And unfortunately, some reviewers are in fact lying to themselves. Thanks to Elżbieta Budierska, the majority of the statistics were run, and these numbers were modified last October. At the time, I created corpora statistics for reviews for Wonder Woman 84 on the Internet Movie Database, and this chart was created with those. What's notable from this is that over half of the reviews are 1 to 4 stars, which is far from the norm and highly indicative of coordinated attacks of review bombing. In order to supplement my argument, I decided to create a curated archive of comic books. The reason being is to show that since their inception, people of different religious backgrounds, colors, sexual orientations, and physical and mental abilities have existed and continue to exist today in comic books. These 8 artifacts show Jewish people, Superman's gay son, a Black hero in Harlem, The X-Men battling an evangelicalist, a Muslim superhero, Batgirl in a wheelchair, a deaf Native American opponent for the blind Daredevil, and a superhero who suffers from PTSD and depression. So, what are the repercussions? Well, the point is, these actions have consequences. People of color, women, and queer people are not going anywhere, and yet these negative perceptions could lead to less investment in these projects. But luckily, it's not an end-all be-all. Female action heroes have stood the test of time. Ripley in Alien was received horribly in the 1970s when first released, but is now considered major iconography for some, regardless of identity. All I can ask is to maybe go out and watch a few queer movies or a female-led superhero show and leave a review when you're done to help counter the negativity. Thank you for your time.